Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Arrow Season 3, Episode 16, The Offer. The episode is rated TV-14, so this video there will be spoilers for this episode and everything Arrowverse leading up to it, but not for anything after it. Another episode I love. Apologies for the, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing when the shades are, but I gotta be able to watch the sky every so often because I'm hearing thunder, but the sky is nowhere near dark enough right now for there to be a lightning strike close enough to where I am that it could, that it's like a threat to my computer. So, yeah, if it gets worse, I will have to cut the video off early, but I really don't think it'll be a problem. It's very far away from. I realize you can't really see it on the screen itself. It just looks like a nuclear blast is paused back there. Anyway, yeah, the show continues to be absolutely amazing. I can hardly wait to see what happens next. We're going to try to do this more or less chronologically. So let's see. Right, the first thing is the the conversation continuing of the titular offer, and yeah, the way that he does really, it is quite the pitch, you know, and yeah, he says something that Oliver and we don't understand, and then says, I don't expect you to understand it. It's in a dialect no longer spoken. And I was very relieved, not particularly surprised, that he did not do that thing that apparently Christian priests used to do way back when, where they would insist on preaching in Latin, even though the commoners did not speak it, so they would just be sitting there listening to something they didn't understand a word of, because, obviously, how else do you convince people what to do than to say something they literally don't understand anything of? But no, he does explain exactly what it means, and I love that. Yeah, at first it does sound like he's saying, oh, it's just the beginning of the story, but really, as Mateo explains at the end, it means Raish has already written the story. I'm calling him Raish because that is how he pronounced it himself, and I think it feels like that's the first. That's when we get the first of the flashbacks. So yeah, they are walking through the marketplace, I think it is, and there's the thing. I really loved, Oliver really does try, this thing of like, okay, what is okay in Mandarin, and he learns, and then he says it like at least twice for the rest of the episode, really trying to help this kid when this could so easily be, again, it really shows he's grown. I think the Oliver of the flashbacks of the pilot would probably have been like, ugh, this freaking kid, so annoying, And I think that does, yeah, yeah, and we have the thing about how he suddenly runs away, and then, thankfully, they're reunited pretty quickly. But yeah, that was very scary. And yeah, we get some more offer talk. No, wait, yeah, no, the next thing is yeah, I was very relieved that it went the way it did, because like there's no way. I mean, even if Thea did change her mind partway through and decided to try to fight Nisa, there's no way she'd ever win. Like, not in her current state. Like, it would take a lot of training for her to. But yeah, and yeah, she says, this ends with Malcolm, not with you. And I think that's when we go back to the No, yeah. Yeah. So they have some more conversation, and then Laurel and Roy show up, and they, of course, they think that they're saving Thea. They have no idea that Nisa has no intention. But yeah, and that was a really cool fight. Like, I wasn't surprised that Nisa could take both of them at the same time. Although, they do manage to knock her out. But I was definitely I was more than a little worried that she would, like, I felt like she might be in the red. You gotta be careful when you've got someone in the red. That's a very dangerous place for someone to be. Like, how much is she gonna take the? I mean, listen, even the most patient person will eventually, like, try to crush the gnat or something, which that is kind of what the rest of us would appear to someone like her and Raish. It's just like, ugh, can you just not? It's like this annoying buzzing in my ear when you're trying with everything in your power to kill me. Can you just not, like, ugh. And yeah, Thea claims that oh, she must have gotten out through some secret League of Assassins training. Yeah, that's definitely it. Which I can't help but wonder if Nisa is going to reveal what actually happened there later, because, like, she has negative traits, but the I don't know. She doesn't really lie very much, at least. It's yeah. She usually just comes right out and says, "No, this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. This is what Raish is going to do." And to be clear, I'm not saying that lying is always, uh, you know, the ethical thing to do. Obviously, if Nazis are at your door and you're hiding Jewish people, lying is the ethical thing to do. And that's the thing. Here, I'm actually not sure how it's going to come down, because there at the end, she is talking about maybe training Laurel. Yeah, it definitely seems like that's what's going to happen next, unless someone tries to prevent that or something. Now, I think, yeah, I realize the lighting is being screwed by how much light is coming from outside. There's not really anything I can do right now. I still need to watch the skies. And yeah, I think that is when we get the so yeah, to be clear, it is one of those scenes where this could easily be super frustrating. Oh, right. I'm sorry, I just gotta double check rather, because I got some message, but that's okay. That is not something that I have to deal with right now. Let's see. The got a chiropractor's appointment in. I guess I leave in slightly over an hour, which is enough to record this video. And sometimes they will send a cancellation by text, so I'm just making sure that wasn't what I got. Anyway, yes, they usually call as well. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. This scene could be very frustrating, because it's like, oh, is Nisa gonna kill Thea? Okay, she doesn't. Is she gonna escape? Oh, no, she doesn't. So it could easily end up feeling kind of pointless, but it is still, Thea trying to figure out what to do now. That is something she struggles with this entire episode, and has struggled with for several episodes now. And the nuclear blast look outside is intensifying. Yeah, let's see. I think, doesn't that pretty much, because yeah, and it shows us where Nisa is, and we have this thing of, she is convinced that this ends with Malcolm dead. So later, when she hears that he's still alive, and that Oliver's next in line. I guess Raish is very anti-Nepo baby. Anyway, that brings us to the rest of the offer. And displays. Oliver doesn't laugh like Sarah did, but he does say, "Is this supposed to impress me?" And Raish is like, "No, I figured you'd be all Shania Twain about it." And the fact that he does lay out genuinely, like, yeah, your only ally in the police force will call you a criminal. You will die alone, and he finds Lance, who's now insisting on being called captain, not detective. Cap Twin Lance. That doesn't work. And the thing is, the first letters of Captain and combined with the rest of the second half of the name Quentin sounds the same as if you just call him Captain. Anyway, Cap Quinn Lance, and he finds that Ray and Felicity are together, and yeah, it genuinely is. I thought they did a fantastic job throughout this episode. At first, I was a tiny bit worried, like, is he really just gonna leave it at the, he just says no. He looks, says, "Let's go home." But the entire episode is about him, considering it, and at the end refusing it, and there will be consequences, which, yeah, I can hardly wait to see, because that's the thing. That's, of course, something that can happen, not speaking from personal experience, if you have an alter ego that no one knows the true identity of. It's easy to impersonate you. And Oliver has, of course, himself taken advantage of that earlier. He had Dig, in costume on more than one occasion. But yeah, like, how is he going to prove that that isn't him? I genuinely wouldn't rule out that Cap Quinn is going to hunt him now the way that he did in season 1, because he is in one of the worst places emotionally right now that we've ever seen him. He lost Sarah twice, and he is furious with Green Arrow over Now, so I genuinely, when Raish had a Dig and Malcolm brought in, I thought he was going to tell Oliver that either Oliver becomes the new Raish, or he will kill one or both of the other two, but no, he says gesture of good faith will let them go. And we, the audience, of course, know there has to be some catch, but what exactly is, I absolutely loved. So they're back in Starling City, and then we have the killer line. We have, we have to stop meeting for, "I'm so glad you're not dead." It's something along those lines. That was just fantastic, because, like, what is this, the third time by now? And now I think that is within like, what, 3 years or so. That's very, very intense. And the thing about Malcolm is there on the couch, and Thea, like, she keeps almost killing him. Let's see. I think the next thing is when Oliver. So he explains to the others, Malcolm is still alive, and Felicity continuing to have some of the best lines. Well, I'm still alive. Malcolm Merlin is as well. Well, I guess congratulations are in order, as well as what? That's fantastic. Just, and yeah, then he goes and frees Nissa. So I guess freeing Nissa from that cell, much to the consternation, not to be confused with constipation, though one can lead to the other, of the rest of Team Arrow. It just runs the Queen family line. And yeah, Felicity has another that might possibly she always has my favorite lines. I think this one might be for this episode. Okay, I don't understand anything anymore. It is also great later when she says, sewing your lips shut. I wish I knew I had that option. Felicity, we would be missing out on so much if you did. And I think it is very felicitous that she did not. I feel like that brings us to the yeah, so we have the bit where Laurel goes to the right, and Nissa pointing out there's no way Rish would trade my life for Malcolm. And then she's even more confused when Oliver said that's not even it. And yeah, I believe the very next thing is, yeah, somewhere around here we get another flashback. And yeah, I think that's when they talk about the botanical gardens, and Oliver agrees. And yeah, so Laurel shows up to Thea's place, and Thea, lets her in and sends her back out as soon as she realizes, I mean, if you're not here to kill my father, I really don't think we have more to discuss. I'm joking, of course. But the, yeah, I mean, she opens the door and is literally like, oh yeah, he's right over there. He's defenseless. The kitchen's over there. I would recommend the steak knife, personally. But yeah, she is not going to stand in the way of this murderous vengeance. And Laurel is just like, see, I was hoping that you were okay, and I can tell you're not, because that's not what I was. They're literally in completely different headspaces about this entire thing. Like, obviously, both of them hate Malcolm, but that's yeah. And honestly, this is a good time to briefly note. So, before watching this show, this was not the first thing I saw. I believe her name is Katie Cassidy, who plays Laurel on the show. This was not the very first thing I saw her in, but watched that she was in, but this was the first time that I was like, I gotta watch more that she appears in, and I'm so glad that she's in, I'm a little bit worried because sometimes the show will kill off characters that we absolutely love and want to see more of, but I'm hoping they're gonna keep her around as long as they have cool stories to tell with her. But yeah, really, really glad that she's been on so much of the show so far. The thing I had watched her in before, where I didn't even recognize, when I started watching this show, I didn't think, oh, that's her. The thing I'd watched before was the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I actually rewatched that right before I watched this episode. And honestly, I will say she does a good job in that. It's really the material that, lets her down. And I could kind of say the same thing for everyone. I mean, I did Kellen Lutz. I like better in the. Sorry about that, making the camera shake. The him I do prefer in the Twilight movies, but I mean, maybe that again is just that's a more compelling character. He looks like he's having a lot more fun in those than in Nightmare. But yeah, genuinely, like I don't know. At this point, it's starting to be my headcanon that when Katie Cassidy appears in something, they're going to have her be like sad, scared, and upset, doing at least some investigating to try to figure out what's going on, and be in dramatic and dangerous situations, I guess. And I honestly would say I don't think any of what I just said is a spoiler, because if you know anything about that movie, that entire subgenre, you can pretty much figure out that at least some of that was going to be the case. but yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also in both Arrowverse so far and in that movie, they underline her conventionally attractive good looks with camera work and costuming. Anyway, yeah, I think that does. And like in Katie Cassidy's defense, that movie, I watched that movie before watching the American version of what's it called again? The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I barely even remember that I had seen Rooney Mara before the American version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So it's absolutely not, Rooney Mara also does well in that, but amazing in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I should watch that again soon. Anyway, I think the yeah, So Malcolm, reveals he's awake. Classic soap opera thing of like, I heard that, Curtis. I mean, Thea. And he's like, well, I heard enough to know that I'm about the last person you want to see alive right now. Go ahead, show me the knife. Not a bad choice. It'll work. Now just do it like I told you. Go for the jugular. And she's like, you know what? You are taking all the fun out of this. Is that why Nissa didn't off me? And just and later says, well, in my mind, stabbed 7 times. What was it? Strangled 3 times, and just like, yeah. I think at this point you better make it a baker's dozen. But I think that brings us to another flashback, and they do go to the botanical garden, and it was great. This thing of like, so what is that thing called? Trying to distract the kid from, use something that he's happy about, and then, they happen to spot some people, and I definitely have a feeling that that's. See, that's the thing. Could it be Waller? Because that would mean that Waller does know a lot. I don't think Mateo would talk unless he felt that was just the better option. Yeah, I'm genuinely not quite sure exactly what. I'm very excited to find out. Shouldn't be very many days before the next episode. Next couple of days are slightly in flux. I haven't decided exactly when I'm going to do what video. Anyway, yes, I think that does bring us to the Oliver tells Timero, let's just find something, that keep us busy. And Felicity, just fantastic acting. I want to say the actress's name is Emily Beth Rickards. I'm afraid my wrist is too sore to check right now. Because like she's like, okay, if that's how you want it, all business, fine. I'll do my job. That's, I'm here to help with that. Robbery in progress, just because like we can tell when she's like, oh, we got to stop the bad guys, I feel like there's at least one thing around here. Is this when Nissa gets back, maybe? And the thing with, if you will not hold your tongue, at least watch your tone. I love the way he talks. And also just, I forget if I've already said this, but he really does nail this thing of the actor getting across, he's supposed to be like, I don't know, maybe 10 times or more his actual, like the actor's actual age. And he nails it. Like he really does feel like someone who's been around for so long that he's like, you know what? I'm out. It was fun for a while being invulnerable. Invincible? Invincible and invulnerable put together. I'm okay. You can have it. And she tries to. I mean, that is one way to get succession. But yeah, and she does slice open his hand a little, but he heals it with the water. Also love the historical context of that, mentioning several. And I think that might guess that's what they were looking for in the fountain, maybe. But yeah, I think that is what. Yeah, there's definitely at least one more thing I really wanted to say about this part of the episode, but I'm struggling to place it. I think that is when. No, yeah, I remember now. Ray. That was genuinely great. This thing of I think I solved technobabble. That's very kind. I find it difficult to believe because I've been working on it for 2 weeks. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've been working on it for 2 minutes. She's so awesome. And I really appreciate that he's not like, well, yeah, I loosened it for you. Or, he's just like, that's really impressive, and he says he'll take her out for the best steak. And, then we have the thing about like, well, it'll have to be, as long as it's better than the place where I needed a microscope to find the food, which really appreciate. I don't think you should really. I don't understand how rich people can stand eating at places where they'll charge you a lot of money to serve you something that looks like I should be framing it instead of eating it. And I have no idea how people find it filling. Like, I'm sorry. Listen, maybe I am a caveman by rich people standards, but when I eat, I actually want to feel like I'm full. Like, yeah. Now, I think that is when we oh yeah, actually, yeah, I guess I skipped ahead a little bit because that's after the, yeah, but I did like the thing with, they make an attempt and yeah, there's a couple of flubs. They do not stop Murmur right away. And the thing with, you need more training. When are you going to stop telling me I need more training? When you don't need any more training. I mean, touche. And I think yeah, they talk about it like, oh, look at they must have been able to get a lot of money out of those diamonds. And it's like, those are not diamonds, but they make everything look good. And yeah, that is when. And also, just I can imagine he's from the comics. Once again, I know a lot less about DC than Marvel, but Murmur, that is very cool. And yeah, it's a very distinct look, and the way that they have, they don't have any like, I mean, okay, we have the joke, Felicity says maybe I should have my mouth shut, but other than that, they don't actually do jokes about it. They talk about, well, yeah, there was a coerced confession, so he sewed his mouth shut, or someone did something like that, and yeah, he communicates using sign language, ASL, I think. And let's see, I think, yeah, it's standing for American Sign Language, not age, sex, and location. But let's see, because that's the kind of thing where you could so easily have had someone be like, why don't you just talk, or something like that. Why do I have to pay attention to the, so yeah. Anyway, I think, yeah, and also Oliver, look on his face when he catches Felicity and Ray, and the thing with, should have called first. What kind of soap opera would it be then? Because like, yeah, that would indeed have avoided that little, I mean, he shows up to their office. It's like, that it's not unreasonable for them to be a little bit all over each other there. And once again, Ray is just like, yeah, sure. There's no like, stay away from my girl or something. I mean, obviously, if you had to say that, she wouldn't be his girl. And he doesn't even say it at the end of the scene either. I don't know. I feel like that was one of the subtler references I've done recently to dialogue from X-Men 1. And I think that pretty much gets us to... Yeah, I think that is the when they realize that so it's armor-piercing bullets. Why would you need that? Oh, right, cops. Which, I don't know, I think is worth noting that in real life there are Republicans who, in office. I forget if they're still in office, but there was a time when they were in office, and they were like, no, yeah, sure. Regular people should be able to buy armor-piercing rounds. And it's like, who do you think they're for? What do you... I'm sorry, is that included in the Republican, politician and commentators' idea of America? I know that a number of them think that literally half the country are out to kill Trump, which makes it interesting that certainly appears that several of the attempts recently, perhaps even a majority, one might say, those certainly seem to be people who lean conservative in at least some ways. Don't seem to be far leftists. Oh, but one of them had a roommate who they were apparently dating who's trans, and I guess someone being trans means that someone they're near is going to become homicidal. That's apparently part of the mythology surrounding the LGBT, agenda now. Like, I'm sorry, can we just stop pretending like they haven't completely stopped making any kind of sense? Like this, it's a moral panic around trans people. It makes no sense. There is no connection to reality there anymore. For the most extreme ones, I'm not saying everyone who hates trans people goes that far, although they're obviously all wrong. Bigotry is inherently wrong. And if you're bigoted for long enough, to a great enough extent, it leads to such intense bigotry brain rot that, yeah, as described just now. Anyway, yes, I think it's very disturbing that some of the most extreme have so much power and influence. And some of them, it's like, if you look at stuff they've said and done, it's like, you do at least some of the worst things that you claim trans people do without evidence that the trans people are doing it. It's projection, so much of it, And I think that does bring us to the... But yeah, so, and Felicity tries calling Cap Quinn, and he doesn't answer because, she's with Arrow. That was also a really compelling scene, the thing of, did you really think I wouldn't find out? You've been lying to me for months. Hard to deny. And I appreciate that Arrow does respect it and start calling him Captain Lance instead of Detective. And then we have the thing with, he basically says, you corrupted me. I used to know that vigilantism was wrong. I'll find out who they are, and you'll read about it in the paper. I'm not helping you anymore. And so he does not answer Felicity, and then Laurel shows up, and once again, love how soap opera-y so much comic book media is, because it's right out of, I swear I've read comics that have this kind of just emotional whiplash. She's there and saying like, I'm sorry I lied about Sarah, I brought food, just let me have it. I know I deserve it, which I also really appreciate that she's at a place where she can acknowledge that. She's been kind of not admitting when she made mistakes there was a while where she did that during the substance abuse problems. And this can maybe help, the episodes for ages 14 and up. Hopefully not too many 14-year-olds need that personally. They're the ones who should hear it, but maybe they can recognize in someone else, going to meetings can really help. I don't know the exact percentage, statistics. I don't have it. I saw them once, but it's been years. But and to be clear, I'm not saying it does not. I have heard that it doesn't work for everyone, and there's something about that it shouldn't be the only thing you do, but it can really help, And yeah, he says, he'll always love her, but he doesn't know if he can forgive her. And then, no, Dad, I'm staying. I might not be able to forgive you, but I'm not going to let you die here, And she runs and saved by the arrow, not the bell. And Nissa is there, and love this thing of her using swords and bow and arrow. And just, yeah, so cool. And yeah, she's like, listen, with some training, and Laura's like, why do I have the feeling that's your idea of a compliment? Fantastic line. And yeah, I could totally see it. And this thing of like, well, I don't have anywhere else to be. He, like Raish said, okay, leave then, if you can't stand to watch me, pass this on to an outsider. And that's when we have the, let's see, and the conversation about, I wanted to remember Sarah. And so does Laurel, and they already did have some conversation and connection. And I appreciate, before, the only way Laurel felt comfortable, engaging with Nissa that way was when Nissa was behind bars. But she did also bring her food, and she didn't only give her the food after, And now, yeah, like they've reached a point where they can, and I think that's really gonna. I think there's a chance this could really take Laurel to the next level, because once again, having read some Black Canary, the one I'm most familiar with is named Dinah, and that is Laurel's middle name, and she is so unbelievably badass. Like, I literally, the last time I read a comic featuring her, it's got to be about 20 years, and I still remember. There's a lot that I have forgotten in the time in between, but yeah. And add to that I read less DC. A lot of what I remember is Marvel, and when you read so many stories, like I have a massive pile of Spider-Man and X-Men. So, of course I remember Peter Parker, Wolverine, characters like that. Let's see. I think, doesn't that pretty much get us to the... I think I'll finish off the flashbacks, because mind blown, Shadow is back. I have no... Well, I mean, maybe it's Raish. Maybe he, because he can bring people back from the dead. We know that. Or to some extent. Although in this episode he said it was by will, not water. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to finding out more, though. I mean, I think I have said before, I really, really loved her character. She was so, yeah. I was so happy when they brought back the actress to play this twisted version, which she nailed. Like, I think maybe some of her best work, some of the most compelling, when, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name now, Manu Bennett's character, when he was starting to imagine her whispering in his ear. Slade, that's it. I think that does pretty much bring us to the, yeah, they managed to stop them at the police station. And then we have the thing about, like, waiting for a thank you. That's not why I do this, which is, of course, a callback to the conversation with Felicity, which, again, that actually might be my favorite conversation scene in this entire episode, when, he says, maybe I should just join Raish. And she points out, they have assassin in the name. They're not nice people. But also the thing where he said earlier, as I kind of theorized, would they just do what he says? Because, like, yeah, I mean, I feel like, okay, League of Assassins, but do they have, like, some kind of over-under, like they don't get out of bed if they don't get to kill at least 10 people in a day? Or could he tell them, you're only allowed to kill in self-defense, and we're going to do what we can to make sure that never becomes necessary, because like they could definitely make a difference. Like that is yeah. And he does agree with, like, it's that thing where he thinks they go too far, whereas Ra's doesn't think that Oliver goes too far enough. But they do agree on, the world needs to be improved upon, And yeah, great action. I don't have too much to say. I absolutely love when Arsenal does like 4 kicks without moving, just like lower leg on one, lower leg on the other, torso on one, torso on the other. Like, reminded me of, there's a similar bit in, somewhat similar in one of the Matrix movies. I guess I don't want to give away exactly which one, but yeah. I don't know, maybe also kind of reminded me of something you might see in a Van Damme movie, and that's, yeah, if you're reminding me of a Van Damme movie as far as the action goes, that's probably a good thing. Not going to pretend like he's the best actor ever, but it works. It tends to work, in my opinion, when they don't give him too much to say, or the lines are very short, so he's not struggling with ESL. Now, I think, I mean, not literally ESL, I appreciate that, but, yeah. Anyway, I'm becoming increasingly determined to rewatch something. I think I'll rewatch Lionheart. Still is one of my favorites of his. Anyway, that definitely brings us all the way to the conversation there at the end with Felicity, and the thing with, I do sometimes say thank you, and she is just like, you're welcome. And then he says, and you're right. And then she rolls out the, thank you, and you're welcome. I should be recording this. Which is just so perfect because, like, listen, Oliver deserves it. We know, if you've been watching the show up to this point, you know, deep down, it's okay for her to mess with him a little bit. Because he can be so annoying and just refuse to acknowledge when someone else does something right, and he's all, my way or the highway so much of the time. It took a long time for him to really open up to anyone else. At first he didn't even let anyone in if he had any other choice into the arrowing. And yeah, that thing about, you said you just want me to be happy. As long as you're in my life, I am. And let's see. Also really feel like we're getting close. And not just because Arts Cafe recently dropped a comment saying close to seeing them all together. Right, for those who don't know, Arts Cafe, years-long friend, supporter of the channel, subscriber, he requested the Arrowverse and, helped me finally get around to doing it, something that I had been, I've been hearing that I should watch it since pretty much it started, and yeah, just finally got around to it. But yeah, they're perfecting his suit, and also really appreciate it's one of those things of like, we saw him take flight. Now they're talking about, oh, we're working on this thing. I mean, I figure it's probably off screen he realized, oh, we still need to do this, or maybe there was maybe that first flight wasn't completely ideal. There's some kind of thing that they still need to, we don't need to know the details. It's important that we realize they are still working on it, and that she really helps out a lot. The other time she helped him out by reminding him to sleep, eat, and shower. And this time she fixes a thing that he's been working on for 2 weeks, which is also just like, it underlines her genius as well. And this thing of like, sometimes you do need, like, there's so many things that have been solved. Sometimes it's taking a break, and that was what we got in the other episode. Sometimes it is like the what's the word? Because he had his eureka moment afterwards. And sometimes it is for someone else to take a look at what you're doing, because if you hyper focus on for way too long, you can end up just kind of losing perspective or something. I've had that happen myself. That's something everybody who, spends a lot of time on any one thing at some point or another, it's good to have someone else look at it. Yes, I think that is basically everything. Yeah, the fact that Raish makes sure to leave just one alive and says, "Tell everyone what you've seen here tonight." And he does, he's got the exact same shade of green and everything. And Mateo does say, there will be consequences to turning him down. And we also have that line about he doesn't just, what's the word? He will want something, Also really loved, I want to briefly finish off about Thea's, so she ends up back with Roy, or at least seeking comfort. I don't know if they're together after this, but that is also, I'm a little bit worried because you have to be careful about starting something like that just out of, because part of what's going on here is she seeks, she wants some kind of relief and release. And, first she thought it would happen if she arranged for Malcolm to die. And then if she had Nissa kill her, and then she thought she would kill Malcolm herself. Even picked out a knife and everything. And, yeah, I think that does pretty much, yeah, apparently, going to, or telling someone that, hypothetically might kill you, that they should, because it would be good. Apparently that runs in the Merlin family. And, yeah, that does pretty much bring us to the end of the episode. Just, yeah, I can hardly wait. I feel like these two shows of the Arrowverse so far are just getting better and better. And, yeah, Mateo says, it means that Raish has already written this story. And Oliver's like, right. So how does Raish feel about feedback on his writing? Like, maybe we could brainstorm something.